Hey everybody, we're gonna start working on one of my toys instead of, it's not much about my business, but something I've had for, I don't know, I'm gonna guess 3+ years. Been picking at it. I bought it from a buddy years ago, a few years, I wanna say 3 years ago. And just started, I originally just was gonna flip it, I guess you might say. I started working on it, and it's all really not in that bad a shape. It's a 79 F-150. Someone had done a lot of mechanical work, rebuilt the motor, had someone rebuild the transmission. All the paperwork was in the glove box, but it had sat for probably 10 years after that. And mice got in. I like keeping paperwork on vehicles when I get them if someone has good stuff. Problem with leaving them in these older vehicles is mice get in them, and the mice got in his glove box. But what he said, I believe, the guy he got it, my buddy got it from, said that he had had the motor rebuilt, transmission, stuff like that. So another reason I was interested in it. Mechanical work is pretty pricey to do, especially when it comes to rebuild the motors. Started picking at it, and then now I'm kind of in deep enough, so I want to finish it. I think it'd be kind of neat to drive through. I haven't had one in quite a few years. I want to show you that there was probably 5 or 6 layers of paint on this thing. You can see back here, the original color of it was black. It was black with a red insert, which is a real unusual color combination. Like I'll show you here, this what's left of the paint, but there was layers and layers of paint, and I use this to strip it off. It's getting pretty beat up looking now you look at it, but those wire brush strippers, most of it came off. All but the last 2 coats came off pretty good. We're gonna do the body work this week and get it in primer, and I think it'll be kind of a cool video. We're gonna start on it today. This body filler that's on, this truck, I did this and it's been sitting in my other garage probably for 1.5 years at least. So this is gonna sand off like concrete. So I'm just gonna take what I call a mudslinger, and 8-inch mudslinger is what the name of them are. But we're gonna strip off some of this body filler and give it a coat on there and start over again. But I want to try to get the body work and get it in primer this week, get the doors back on. Doors have been sitting in my garage, like I said, for the last 1.5 years, 2 years, whatever it was. So we'll get back on it. It's too bad the truck isn't a real rust bucket, because someone used it for mudding and stuff like that, running it through the wood, so it's beat up but not real rusty, which is unusual for a 79. So we'll go from there. This auto body filler that's set on there for that 1.5 years, it's cured for so long. Normally when you put body filler on, you want to sand it within 24 hours. It just sands way easier. This is literally like hard to the point where I just want to kind of get it stripped down to where I can put another coat on and start from there. I just want to explain why I'm doing what I'm doing. Show you a PVC piece of plastic pipe. Actually works pretty good on some of these body lines. I've got some of the other sanding tools, but a lot of times it's easier just to grab something simple. So we got it knocked down where in the morning I'm going to strip a little more of the primer and paint, but I'm getting all the paint from underneath and the hood and all that stuff across. But overall, like I said, I want to put a new wire brush. These are a air tool from Napa. They all have a brand of this sander, but I find this one works pretty good. I've had a couple of them. That one's probably lasted the longest. I wanted to show that with the new brush on it. Like I said, I found this is probably the best thing I've ever had since I've done this. Started doing this when I was probably 15 years old, doing auto body work and stuff like that. That by far is probably the best stripping tool, especially if you got layers of paint. Doesn't really cause damage neither. It gets to a certain point and just shines the seal up. It doesn't dig in. It just takes the paint off, which is awesome. We're back in the shop this morning. I just want to show you the progress we're making on it. We got quite a bit of the body work done yesterday. Got one of the doors, internals, ready to hang back on. Just want to show to anybody that knows the 70s Ford trucks, like these weep holes for the bottoms of the doors are normally rotted, like twice the size they're supposed to be. But this truck seems to be in pretty good shape rust wise. It's just got beat up from people running it through the woods and stuff. Even that cab corner only needed a small patch put in it, and then the rest of this stuff was dents, and someone had welded most of the holes up for the chrome that used to be on it, so I just MIG welded them, and then I'm going to make it a solid color red. I already did the bed, but I just want to show you where we're at this point. Bottoms of these fenders were cut off because it had 35s on it when I bought it, and I think they needed that travel for the tire when they were out mudding it and stuff. But I patched them. The rest of the fenders in real good shape, and I had some fenders that were like bent in half from an accident that still had the good dog legs, so I did both sides. But even the bottoms of these fenders, that was dented, not rotted. I'm hoping by Friday to have the body work done in primer, hopefully. Then I believe I'm going to put fuel, everything's new, fuel tank and everything, but I haven't started it since I put all the new, I started it with the old fuel in it when I bought it. But it hasn't been started for a couple years at this point, so we'll probably get on that next week. Getting the doors hung back on. I'm going to get this door hung back on, put the other one on the rack, get the inside of it done, sealed, primed, and I'll put that one on tomorrow. But I marked these when I took them off, like I said, 2.5, 3 years ago. But what I normally do is I take a little Dremel tool, make a mark where they were sitting. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but I think I got them pretty much where they got to be. I used to do a lot. I've owned probably, not an exaggeration, I've probably owned 35 of this era truck. I've owned a lot more for part, I parted them out years ago, but I've actually owned like drivable ones. So I've probably owned, I'm gonna guess like 35 or more. It used to be all I drove when I was younger. Even when I met my wife, our full-time driver was a 78 with a plow on it, because we live up on this is a class 6 camp road we live on. So. And the actual yard truck was a 72 Ford. And with any luck, that's gonna close. Doesn't have the door gaskets on it right now, so that's why it's thumping. But overall, I'm pretty happy with that. Pretty much gotta fine tune it a little bit, bodywork wise, but other than that, that door is closing pretty good. I'm happy. Takes you about probably a fifth of the time on these old trucks to line the door up than it does these newer vehicles. It was run through the wood, so everything in it's dented out. I got a lot of my old, I don't do a lot of this anymore, but I have a lot of the special sanders and stuff, but I found this 1.5 inch PVC pipe work the best to get this body line straight. I'm pretty sure that I was sitting on the light, so I'm pretty sure that's what I did when I did the bed too. Probably one more coat on this and I'll get it to where I'm happy. Then we're gonna epoxy prime it, probably 3 different coats. I got the other door over here. Same thing, this thing's not rusty, but boy was it dented. So we'll get it ready to go on today. But I think what I'm going to do with this one, the way the truck's on the lift, I'm not going to be able to put it on until I move the truck. I like having them on the truck so that you can make sure everything's lined up body line wise. This fender got bunged up a little bit. I'm going to fix that today so it matches the body lines better. Up top seems to be pretty good on both ends, so just a matter of doing body work. Both sides had a dent here, which I don't really understand. It's almost like I'm wondering if they didn't have a ladder rack on it at one time on the bed that slid forward and hit that, because it was caved in pretty good on both sides. But like I said, if you look at these doors, I'm going to try to get every little ding and dent out of it, but boy, it's seen some action over the years. These are a sander. that I get from Lowe's, made for like, you can get this. This is just a 3M Velcro back, but I think this is actually better for the money than the 3M ones. We're to the point now where I'm gonna clean up the glass. This tape that's stuck to it's been on there for like 2 years. I gotta get all that off, and this is bedline spray that must have got on it when they were sitting in the corner of the garage. But basically I got all the dents and dings out of it that I'm gonna take out, but I'm gonna clean the glass up real good to tape it up. All these rubber and stuff is like really weathered. This truck sat a long time underneath trees. I'm going to try to clean that up to get tape to stick to it, but we'll go from there. All right, we got it taped up, and I'm getting ready to put some 2K primer on it, which is basically epoxy primer, high build. Probably take like 3 coats. Put the first coat on good and heavy, let it sink in. Like the body filler takes and sucks it right in where the steel won't, but it's kind of the stuff I use is kind of like a self-etching all-in-one type primer, but it's pricey. But I used to use a yellow self-etching primer, then put the gray over it, but like I like this stuff because you end up sanding a lot of it back off to get things where they've got to be. So I just figured I'd take a quick shot of this and we'll mix some primer up. Primer I'm using they call it a 2K primer. It's basically epoxy primer. It's based on a 4-to-1 mix. So it's the best product I found over the last 10 years for the money. I wouldn't say it's the best product of all, but it's the stuff I was using was over 200 for the gallon just for the primer and not counting the activator. This is about 150 bucks for a gallon of primer and a quart of the activator. And it really, it's good stuff. I mean, some of your feather fills, what I used to call back in the day, they called it feather fill. It was basically high build primer. A lot of them you wet sanded, because if you tried dry sanding it, it was like trying to dry sand concrete. It did wet sand better than it dry sands, but I try to dry sand. I might wet sand. I might block this out once before I get ready to paint it, but overall it's going to be hand sanding it with dry sandpaper. So this stuff doesn't clog your paper. I've had pretty good luck with it. So. What I do with this is I put a double wet coat on each time I give it a coat. The first coat I put on it, I'm not afraid to bail it a little bit, put it right to it. Then once you sand that and do it again, you go a little bit lighter and maybe heavier on the spots if you think there's an issue where you go heavier. But sucks to wear glasses when you wear a mask, I'll tell you. But I'm getting so I can't see without them. So. You got a coat of primer on it, and do a quick walk around. Like I said, I have pretty good luck with this primer. It's got a little shine to it, but it's just the way it goes on. Anything that's got a catalyst type hardness to it always has a shine to it. Not like normal primer, but kind of got the shape, gives me an idea. Like I said, this will be a good base to start off from. Probably have to prime and sand it 3 times anyways before I'm happy. Looks better just seeing it one color. This is the next morning after I primed it. I'm going to do a quick walk around, show you how it cures. I put a double wet coat on this. The first coat, because the body filler always pulls it in more so than the steel. So the next, when I sand this down, I'll probably sand this with a 220 grit paper, block it out some, and then I'll prime it again, probably a single coat of the same primer, the epoxy prime. But I just wanted to do a quick walk around and show you the results from that. Overall, it's come out pretty good. It's another way to, you put this, another thing I like about this epoxy prime is that it's a shine, it's got a little bit of a shine to it, so if you missed a ding or something, it will normally show up pretty good. But if you look, you can see where the body filler sucked it in different than the steel. But like I said, this initial coat I put on heavy, the next one will be a single coat of this primer. But I'm probably going to prime and sand it at least 2 more times, maybe 3. I used to use 3M made a green spot putty. I kind of stuck with it for a lot of years. It's not as friendly with the new base coat, clear coat. They had problems with it I guess they didn't play well with each other, so it would shrink or pull a scratch. So what I've been using this epoxy prime instead of puttying. Normally when I do body work, you would prime it and then putty those areas, but this epoxy prime, it's high build. You put this on, you're better off. I found over the years this even works better, it sands better. But I'm gonna let this cure. This is a Sunday. I'm gonna wait till tomorrow and then I'll sand this out. They say it's sandable the next day. I've always found if you can let it sit a couple days, it does sand better. It doesn't clog your paper, but it's weird. It just sands better I've used it enough so that I can tell when you let it sit. The longer you can't let it sit like weeks, but a few days, I think it sands better. But I just wanted to do a quick overview of that. The back of the cab, I didn't prime. I'm gonna put 1 coat on, the final coat of primer. When I painted the bed, I put extreme liner on the bottom and on the inside of the bed. So I'm gonna tape this off and do the same thing. That's gonna be extreme liner. I did the underneath of the cab with extreme bed line spray and on the floorboards on the inside. So I'm gonna spray this and it will get rid of some of that tinniness in these old cabs. Quiets them down when you're going down bumpy roads and stuff. But I just want to explain that's why I didn't put a bunch of primer. Plus this stuff's very expensive, so there's no sense of priming that 3 times. We'll end this video here. The next video will probably be me priming and sanding it, getting it prepped for paint and painting it. And I'll explain what I'm going to use for paint, but it's a base coat clear. It's called Tech Base from Napa. Base coat clear coat. Pretty pricey. To get the paint, just to paint that. I painted the bed between the paint, the activator, clear coat and activator. It was like $550 at $558, I think, for that. I got a little bit left, enough to probably jam this. So I'm going to do the jams and then probably going to buy another 2 quarts of the paint. And again, by the time you do it, I'm going to have $500 or $600, if not more, just to get the stuff material to paint that cab. But I think it's going to be a pretty cool project when we're done, so we'll keep videotaping it. And if you like my stuff, like I said, it's Alden's Landscaping, but I do all this stuff. I fix my own equipment, fix my trucks, change my own oil. We do most of the time, we do our own tires and everything. I'm going to try to videotape everything I do. I know it's a landscaping company page, but my daughter just thinks people think it's kind of cool that I do this other stuff. I've done this auto body stuff since I painted my first car when I was probably like 15, and I got out of it because my wife it isn't healthy. I don't care what anybody says. You can have the best spray booth and everything. It's just something, the landscaper's a lot better health-wise being in that business, but I enjoy doing this as long as I'm not doing it for a living. If it's a hobby, it's kind of cool. So you'll see more stuff This is an F-150. I want to get a 250, 79 F-250 Highboy. I want an original one that really hasn't been run through the woods and ripped apart 10 times. This ain't a bad truck. It's going to be a good driver for somebody, but I do believe I'll sell this. Someone always seems to like them more than I do, and they'll end up buying it from me. I've had a lot of these over the years. So, but my truck I want now to keep would be a 79 F-250 Highboy. And only a handful of people. You look online, the people will be advertising an F-150 as a Highboy. There's no such thing. A Highboy has to be an F-250. And it's not a lot. It's the springs, the spaces in the springs. I've parted out some of these over the years. I've got everything to make a normal F-250 a Highboy if I have to do it that way. But I'm in my 50s. I kind of want to get one that's all original, that might need paint, but something that someone's kept care of. They're big money now, so you got to be careful buying them. But I'm hoping to get one that's never been this far apart, is to put it bluntly. So we'll end this video here, and if you like my stuff, please like and subscribe. It helps me out. Thanks.